Welcome to Eye on South Asia. We're back after the break, and far more interesting stories coming up during this segment. Sujit, you probably heard about this very unfortunate happening where this was a group that had come to California for an educational tour, and on June 23rd, a 15-year-old boy suddenly went missing.
Well, Sunil, it's a really scary, story coming in the wake of so many other high-profile stories, the Kaylee Anthony story of children and teens missing, and the U.S. has a big history of child abductions. But to a little bit more background on the case, this boy Lovedeep Singh is 15 years old. He was part of a group from Punjab, which was on an educational trip to California. The boy went missing in Los Angeles. The police officials have been interviewing members of this delegation that came from the student group. Essentially, it seems that this boy had a large amount of money also in his pocket when he went missing, and he was taking photographs outside this hotel where the whole group had congregated, and the group went inside and an hour later found that one of them was missing. It was Lovedeep Singh, and incidentally his brother was also part of the group, a 10-year-old boy, but he is safe.
Yeah, he's with the group still.
Right. So that is one of the puzzling things which I find. If this boy had actually kind of run away and decided beforehand that this was what he was going to do in the US, the fact that his 10-year-old brother is still with the group is a bit puzzling to me. What do you feel?
Well, certainly it's puzzling more so because the guy does not know English and he knows very little of Hindi as well. So the question comes to, for all these days, it's been almost 18 or 19 days now, and he's been missing. Where he must be putting up, where is he eating, where is he sleeping, who is he talking to? Because in the end, money is not going to be able to
exactly, and that's what the police officials are saying, that where does this boy sleep in the night? And this is scary, Sunil, coming in the wake, as I said, of the high-profile cases, including this week itself in Brooklyn. An 8-year-old boy who's of the Hasidic community, the Jewish community, he was missing, and 3 days later his remains were found dismembered. The police have actually got a suspect in custody. He's also from the Jewish faith, and one of the things which I found interesting about this case was more than thousands of volunteers came forward to search for this boy, and including some members from the Pakistani American community in Brooklyn. But finally, what a tragic ending.
Look, I really don't hope it has a very similar type of situation. And actually what's happening is, Sujit, this new social media, the internet, the Facebook, the Twitter, they have obviously great pluses, but now for India or people in India or the next generation, the youth, for them this is something very new. And many people are suspecting that this guy, who's otherwise a 5 feet 8 inches tall, well built, maybe somebody lured him on the net and kind of knows that he's carrying so much money, and who knows what he's facing right now.
Well, he could have been, contacted over the internet even before he came to the US.
Right.
And, because of Facebook and, as you're saying, the social media, Twitter and all that, it's very, easy to reach out to people all over the world. But Sunil, in New York itself, we have had this story like almost 30 years, more than 30 years ago. In 1979, in fact, Ethan Patz, and he was a 6-year-old boy. He went missing, walked out from home, was never discovered. And one of the things I found interesting when I was doing research for this story was that till 1984, the US did not have a database where they could put a missing child's information in. They could put information about stolen cars, stolen guns, and even stolen horses into a database till 1984. But all that changed after some of the cases, especially Ethan Patz's case. The boy was never discovered, unlike this this poor Brooklyn boy who was abducted and killed and dismembered.
Right.
So one can only hope that Lovedeep Singh, wherever he is safe. Sunil, when you spoke about this, the internet being a factor in children being lured by adults, according to the online victimization research which the US Justice Department does, approximately 1 in 7 youth, and youth is they count as between 10 to 17 years old, receive a sexual solicitation or approach over the internet. And the figures are even more startling. One research is about how many children are actually missing in the US every year. According to the US Department of Justice, almost 800,000 children go missing every year. And out of that, more than 200,000 children were the victims of family abductions. But there are only 115 children who were actually abducted by people taken away for ransom and actually killed. So, this is news which every parent needs to be wary of. They need to caution their children not to speak to strangers, to scream for help if somebody accosts them and tries to, abduct them. And one can only pray in the end.
I guess, with this advent of this new media, one has to be very, very careful. While on the one hand, it's very helpful, even for getting good education, but there are its
At
downside
what
of
age
it.
do you leave your child to walk alone back to home from school? That is a question.
Handhold your children and make sure you are on top of them. Here is a case of a mother and a daughter, and both of them came to US. The daughter has done exceptionally well. Her name is Mandeep Chahal, and she is going to University of California, Davis. And her mother, Jagdish Kaur, who's essentially a homemaker, just was on a temporary stay to be here, and now was being asked to be leaving the country. She had applied for a political asylum, but I think she missed in showing up when she had to defend her position, and she's being asked to be gone. She's being deported from here. And on the other hand, she has a wonderful kid, Mandeep Chahal, who is done extremely well. We want to take on this and explain more.
Well, this is a case which again joins a list of cases where children who have been educated in the US, they come here as a child, they don't know that they are illegal in this country till at a later age, and this is another one of those cases, Sunil. The mother actually filed for political asylum in 1998, but after a 6-year backlog, she missed a hearing in 2003, and then the ICE went after her. And she was actually arrested by ICE when she was going for a doctor's appointment. Right. She was imprisoned, but for medical reasons she was let out of prison. Her daughter was not actually taken by ICE, but the fact remains that how can you separate the mother from her daughter? If the mother goes, the child has to go, and in this case the child is also an illegal. So she is also going to be deported finally. If they've got a reprieve right now, the ICE has said that these two can stay in the country temporarily, but the lawyer is not sure whether they are going to get asylum or not.
Quite a bit of organizations, quite a number of organizations have come behind this kid, because Mandeep has a wonderful record at the college, and she has been once voted, as they say, most likely to save the world by her classmates, and she volunteers in all human rights organizations at the UC Davis campus. She has a lot behind her.
Absolutely.
And this is something that has been brought up, including by the ICE director, John Morden. He's saying, look, here is a kid, she has, like you said, no clue that she's illegal, she's done wonderfully well. Why can't we protect these type of promising kids who can be eventually a big contributor to this country? And from the what they call the Morden memo, this is the first test. This is what he is positioning it as, that we should not be deporting kids like this who are very smart, very promising, and they can contribute to this country.
Well, the Morden memo, as it is called, was issued last month on June 17th, and according to that, he has asked federal agents, and Morden, of course, is the ICE director. He has asked the federal agents to consider a few factors before actually detaining somebody.
And based on that, I think, there is some consideration going on, but we'll see.
Well, so this is all part of the DREAM Act, which actually did not pass in the Senate, and California has quite a bit of history of actually giving a reprieve to some students who have been detained, but then they are let out because of their academic brilliance or for the acts they're doing in society, whether they've been part of like a lot of charitable organizations. In January of this year, in fact, there was a San Francisco teen, Elizabeth Lee, very much like Chahal. She was 16 years old. And she came here to this country when she was pretty young, just like Chahal, and then she was ordered deported. But then, because the community stood up for her, a lot of her classmates stood up for her. She's got a 6-month reprieve. Her case is going to be again coming up soon. And as you can see, the US, while deporting a lot of people, do have a lot of compassion also in these kind of cases, especially if the community actually sends faxes, which in Chahal's case, more than 3,000 people had actually sent faxes to the the state congressman, to the state senator, and also to the White House. Things can work differently.
Yeah, and our wishes are with the daughter, and we expect that she will get a compassionate review for her case. But moving away from California now into the East Coast, Sujit, this thing seems to be growing every day, every week. We touched this story, I think, a week ago, which is the India Business Association in New Jersey on Oak Tree Road, the most famous strip in America, and versus the Oak Tree Business Association, the other organization outside the limits of Woodbridge Township in Edison, who are claiming that they are the true organization to host the India Day Parade. So at the end of the day, here is a situation where groups are fighting who will celebrate the India Day parade. I mean, this is just amazing. And in this whole tussle, one group, which is IBA, has sued now the mayor of Edison, Antonio Ricigliano, who is in late 70s and quite affectionate, motherly person, very close to the Indian community, has been sued by IBA for giving the permit to the other organization.
Very unfortunate set of events, and I feel there's a lot of posturing going on. It's like a tussle between two organizations as to who wants to come on top.
True, but from what we know, we have the quite inside story that the IBA does not want to open the organization to any new membership. And the current top leadership is very kind of seems to be insecure that if the new members come in and they'll be democratically electing the new presidents, so they don't want to probably let it go. And on the other hand, OTBA, as it's called, the Oak Tree Business Association, is saying, look, we have 400 businesses on Oak Tree Road. Why can't we everybody come in and join in and select the member, select the leadership, and take the celebration to the next level?
And OTBA has been saying that only 3 members from the IBA has been head of this organization for a while. All the parade, and that is the the crucial element here. The India Day parade, which is held on Oak Tree Road, and who gets to lead the parade? Who is at the head of the parade? Who gets to choose who is selected to one of the stars which come from Bollywood or from the TV industry there? So at the crux of this is that who gets to meet with the celebrities? So I feel that the factors are pretty minor. The two sides should sit down and actually reach a consensus, because if the businesses are legitimate, and these are legitimate businesses on Oak Tree Road, the parade is held on Oak Tree Road, why can't the two businesses come together and form one single organization?
But from what I see right now, there is highly unlikely to be a truce, and it has taken to the new dimensions. As I told you, they have sued the mayor. Now, I don't know whether it will remain an Indian versus an Indian, or becoming an American versus an Indian, or becoming one party versus the other party, because Woodbridge has Democratic Party and the elections are coming up for the mayor. And on the other hand, the Edison has a Republican Party in charge, and they have the mayor from the other side. So we don't know which shape, which direction this whole fighting will take place, and we are only less than 36, 37 days from the Independence Day celebration.
Well, the history of splinter groups in this country is amazing. There are more than 100,000 Indian American organizations which are registered. If you see, a lot of organizations like TANA over the years have broken up into splinter groups. And finally what happens is that each of these organizations have their own parade. But at the end of the day, it's the Indian community that benefits, I feel. If you have two parades, more joy, more celebration, the community can actually go out and celebrate more. Well, so let us leave this, this petty hassle aside, and I think that the Indian community really deserves one grand parade on Oak Tree Road in New Jersey. Just like the the community who comes to New York in Manhattan, they get to see this grand spectacle where more than 100,000 people converge every year. If there is greater unity in New Jersey in the community there, I think that more good will be done.
True, I hope and pray for that. In the whole mud throwing on each other in New Jersey and the New York side, we have a great news. Mr. Hari Anand, which is actually Harvinder Hari Anand, who is a chemical engineer from University of Punjab, and he runs his own company on chemical industries, is now for the first time Indian being re-elected the 3rd time the mayor of Laurel Hollow. It's a very small strip, but it has got huge mentions, anywhere I believe 2 million to 35 million. Hari has been re-elected for the 3rd time. And guess what? Hari is not just the mayor, but he is also the commissioner of police for the Laurel Hollow,
which is on the north shore of Long Island. And the figures that you mentioned were actually not the population, which is only like 1,300 voters, I believe.
Right.
But these are actually the value of homes. It's a very wealthy community. The homes range from anything between $2 million to $35 million.
So I think it's fantastic for a fellow Indian who is almost a current generation, an engineer doing his private business successfully in the middle of the small strip, as you said, 1,300 homes who are varying from $2 million.
Well, Sunil, these are like registered like voters. But what I really found interesting here was that he's a Sikh and he wears his turban very proudly. True. He's a role model for the entire Sikh community. And of course, the Punjabis, the Indian Americans of Punjabi descent have a great history of getting into politics very successfully. And the first ever, if you remember in California, the first ever and the first also Asian American to become a congressman was Dileep Singh Sond. He was a congressman from 1957 to 1963. And right now we have 2 governors Out of the 50 states, we have 2 governors of Indian American origin. Guess what? They both are of Punjabi origin. Bobby Jindal in Louisiana, and also Nikki Haley Randhawa in South Carolina. And Nikki's father actually sports a turban. So I feel that the Sikh community, whenever I see a Sikh, with all the discrimination that faces them, on the streets of this country, but when I see a Sikh in power and who is a public figure, I really feel heartened by it.
On that note, I think it's time for a break, and we'll come back with some more interesting stories about the Clinton's Aspen event and others. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay there.